What's going on, everybody? This is Chad Minton, one of your hosts of Catfish on Ice podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and also Raycon earbuds. Promo code THPN for both of those awesome sponsors to get exclusive deals. With Raycon earbuds, you can get 15% off your order with our promo code THPN, and on the DraftKings Sportsbook app with the NFL Week 1 starting, you can get some really awesome deals also with our promo code THPN for new users. All right, so we just put episode 144 of Catfish on Ice up last night. It was a really fun episode with Rich Howe and Kyle Perkins, my co-host, and we talked about past trades and how they have shaped this current team, and also about future trades that could be coming, which players on this current team are really high up on that trade block that might be traded this season. It was a really fun episode. Go check it out on all the major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Go check it out and follow us on Twitter at Catfish Ice. We love when all of our listeners join the live stream on this very YouTube channel and comment as we're recording. It's always a lot of fun. So if you're not doing that yet, hit the subscribe button and watch our next episode, which will be next week. But we're bringing a little extra YouTube bonus content for you today here because I got to talk about some realistic things here. Okay, the expectations for the Nashville Predators are rightfully so a lot higher than they were at this time last offseason, because they've had a very productive offseason by getting players like Ryan McDonough and Nino Niederreiter and re-signing Philip Forsberg. The confidence is high. You've got younger players who had strong rookie seasons who you expect to be even better this season. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this Predators team going into this season. But the point of my video today is there are still three major concerns that I have for this team that need to be met with, and hopefully those concerns can be put to rest as the Predators hit the ice and they show me that these are concerns that shouldn't be had. Let's get it going here with my first concern that I have for this Nashville Predators team, which, by the way, the season opener for the Nashville Predators in Czechia is going to be just less than a month from now as they open up a doubleheader against the San Jose Sharks on across the pond, if you will. It's going to be a lot of fun watching that. So my first biggest concern for this Predators team is pretty obvious if you watch this team at all last season, and that they've got to draw that fine line between being a very hard-hitting, edgy team, but also cut back a little bit on these senseless and really just lack of focus penalties that we saw a lot of times. Can they actually do that? You got to think that this is a major focal point for head coach John Hines going into this season, because you're living on borrowed time when you play that way and you're constantly going to the penalty box. The Predators led the league in penalty minutes, penalties taken, major penalties. They were constantly having to expend a lot of energy killing penalties and relying on UC Saros to bail them out on a lot of occasions. And it just can't happen against the top tier teams. If the Predators truly want to take a step forward, a significant step forward, and show us that they're making progress, well, they've got to make significant improvements in this area. It doesn't mean that they have to suddenly turn into something they're not. We know they're going to be a feisty team. We know that they're going to be a physical team. And we know that they're going to get under the skin of their opponents. And nobody wants that to change, because that's what this team's motto and MO is. But you got to draw a fine line here somewhere. There were too many instances, especially against the league's best power plays, where the game was really decided on the power play and the Predators not being able to stack up against these elite power plays. All I got to do is point to the first round sweep against the Colorado Avalanche, where let's look at this. Game 1, the Avalanche go 2 out of 5 on the power play. Game 2, they went 0 for 4. But I got news for you. Connor Ingram had the game of his life. That's the reason why. Game 3, The Avalanche went 4 out of 5 on the power play. Put that in perspective, 4 out of 5. And then in the decisive game 4, the Avalanche only got 2 power plays, but they still connected 1 out of 2. They went 7 out of 16 overall in the 4 games for a 43% success rate, everybody. For context, the league's leader in power play last season was the Toronto Maple Leafs. They had a 27.3% success rate on the power play. The Avalanche were 43% in 4 games against the Predators. I mean, I'm not saying that the Predators would have won that series if they were better and not committing as many penalties, but I can promise you it would have been a lot closer and it wouldn't have been a sweep. So we got to see improvement in this area, obviously. I do think there's reason to think that they will improve because they've made some significant personnel upgrades. Nino Niederreiter is a very physical player, but he's also a savvy veteran, and I expect him to be a lot smarter in this regard and help in this area. Ryan McDonough, he's another one. He's a smart veteran. I see him being a leader on the ice for sure and not taking bad penalties. So those 2 players alone right there got to make you think that maybe they can cut back on these really bad penalties and make life a little bit easier on their goaltender, UC Saros, and also preserve some energy so you can actually be on the attack and not on the defensive the entire game. You want to be on the attack. You can't be on the attack if you're always killing penalties. It's just a fact. So I'm really concerned about that because I've got to see it to believe it. The Predators were 18th in the penalty kill last year. A slight improvement, but not good enough. Not good enough if you're going to play that way. So if you are going to be a highly penalized team, you better have an elite top 5 penalty kill to make it. And that's really hard to do. So let's see some improvement. That's obviously my number 1 concern, though. I got to see improvement there. All right, my number 2, it kind of ties into number 1, honestly, but it's a little different. We can't solely rely on UC Saros to carry us completely anymore. Yes, he is one of the league's top 3 best goaltenders, no doubt about it. But this team has to become a more balanced team if they're going to compete with the top tier teams. That is a concern of mine because I still have this doubt that the Predators are going to suddenly become some elite offensive juggernaut that doesn't have to have elite goaltending to get them far. And I'm already on record of saying that I think UC Saros has a really good chance of winning his first Vezina Trophy this year. How amazing would that be, considering that the NHL awards will be in Nashville? So he could definitely take them far just on his own. We know that. He's done it already in the past. But my concern is how far can he actually take them on his own? I don't think he can take them much past the first round. We're back in the same issues that we've had for the last 4 years. They can't get past the first round. Yes, a goaltender can get hot at any moment, and UC Saros is one of those goaltenders. Of course, there's always that slim chance. But I have a concern about this team relying on him too heavily once again, and he breaks down again. He has another really bad stretch, and then suddenly the team falls back into that playoff bubble. Maybe they barely scrape by once again. That's my concern when it comes to relying too heavily on UC Saros, who led the league in starts last year with 67, ended up getting hurt right towards the end of the regular season. I'm not blaming the 67 starts for why he got hurt. All I'm trying to say is he was definitely worn down, and it got to the point where it was like boom or bust with UC Saros. If he shows up and he plays up to his high ceiling, then maybe the Predators will win. But if he's even ordinary, I'm not feeling too good about it, especially when you're playing the league's best offensive teams. So that's a concern of mine. If I really think the Predators are going to make a step forward and compete with the top teams in the Western Conference and maybe finish second place in the Central Division, which is my ceiling for them, they can't just rely on UC Saros. They've got to have nights where maybe Saros isn't his best, but the team still figures out a way to win. That's a concern of mine. Okay, my last concern here, my top 3 concerns here. Number 3, how many individually outstanding career seasons did we see last year on this Predators team? I mean, just off the top of my head, Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene, Roman Josi, Tanner Jeannot, Philip Tomasino as a rookie, Yakov Trenin, Ryan Johansson scored 20-plus goals. We've never seen that since he's been with the Predators. I mean, there were so many things that broke the right way. Mikael Granlund put up 53 assists, which is third all-time single season in Preds franchise record. No one really is bringing that up, but that's pretty significant. Can we really count on all these individually great career seasons duplicating in 2022-23? I'm very skeptical of that. So that's my concern, is that a couple of these players might come back down to reality a little bit. It doesn't mean they're going to be horrible players, but they're not going to have career seasons once again all at the same time. So what does that mean? That means there's going to be that production for the Predators to be just as successful is going to have to be made up somewhere else. Now, the good news is there are plenty of candidates on this team that can do that. I already brought up Nino Niederreiter earlier. He is a great pickup for that reason. I do think that he is going to take a lot of pressure off some of these superstar players on this team to pick up some of the slack. He's not a highly prolific offensive player by any means, but he can chip in 15 to 20 goals. He can definitely chip in some assists. He's going to be a great two-way player and a veteran leader on the ice. So he's a good player to offset some of that dip in production that we might see from a player like Duchene or Forsberg or even Josi on the defensive end, who nearly hit 100 points. Do we really think he's going to have, for a second year in a row, a 40-year high for an NHL defenseman in points? I mean, I'm not taking it away from him. He's definitely capable, but it's still a long shot. He's probably going to see a minor dip in his production. So we have to think about these things. Also, Forsberg and Duchene had career highs in shooting percentages. Forsberg had a career high. Matt Duchene had his second highest shooting percentage of his career, which led to all those goals. It was great to watch. It was fun to watch each of those guys go tit for tat to see who was going to break the single season Preds goal scorer held by David Legwand. It was fun to watch. Do we really think they're both going to do that at the same time this season? Again, it's possible, but let's keep our expectations a little tempered there. So I'm looking at Nino Niederreiter for sure as a player. Yakov Trenin keeps becoming a better and better offensive player. He's going to have to keep that up. And then, of course, Cody Glass. Cody Glass is such a big X factor here in all of this. Everyone expects him. He's got to earn it in training camp coming up here, but everyone expects him, including myself, to be the fourth-line center initially rolled out when the season starts. He has a very high ceiling. He's had a very, very rough go of it early in his career. He played for the Vegas Golden Knights, who didn't fully invest in him. That's how the Preds end up in this three-way trade that included Ryan Ellis to get Cody Glass here. And then last season, Cody Glass initially is on the Preds roster to open up, and then the coaching staff decides, you know what, Cody Glass needs a full season down with the Milwaukee Admirals to fully develop. And at the time, I didn't like the decision. I was kind of upset about it, I'll be honest. But it turns out it was a really smart move, because Cody Glass had a great breakout season, was probably the best player on that Admirals team last year. Just piled up the assists, looked so comfortable. So now we know that he is ready for the NHL. He is fully ready. There's no doubt about it. So if he can break out this year on the NHL level as a fourth liner, you know how much better that's going to make this Predators team, because they're going to be deeper. They're not going to have to put as much pressure on the top six to carry the team offensively every night. It's going to be huge. And he's going to have a ripple effect on players like Eeli Tolvanen or whoever else is on that fourth line, whether it's Tommy Novak, whether it's Zach Sanford. We don't know exactly who's going to be on that fourth line yet. But Cody Glass is the centerpiece of that, obviously, as a true center. So it's a valid concern I have, though, because you're still banking on a lot of what ifs. Because I'm telling you right now, I just don't see it happening. I don't see every single one of those players having career years for 2 years in a row. Someone is going to have a dip in production. And who is going to come in and make up for that? And even with all of those career seasons last year, the Predators still barely scraped into the playoffs. Think about that. And they got swept for the first time in franchise history. So I'm not trying to be totally negative here, but these are 3 valid concerns I have. So to recap, 1, fix the penalties. Can they do that? That's a concern of mine. I have to see it to believe it. But they need to do it if they're going to compete with the top teams, because they can't live that way against the top end power plays, the dynamic superstars on these teams. They can't compete with those teams if they're constantly killing penalties off. So they got to do that for sure. Can't rely solely on UC Saros. Got to become a more complete team. That is a valid concern of mine, because for the longest time, the Predators have just relied on Pecorine for all those years, and now UC Saros. And it's a great problem to have in some ways, because, yeah, there's teams out there who don't have good goaltenders, and they're screwed every night. So at least the Predators have that box checked. But still, if you want to compete with the best, and if we eventually want to become a Stanley Cup team, you can't just rely on your goaltender to bail you out every night. So that's my concern there. And then my last concern is, are these players who have had all these career seasons this past year, are they going to come back down to earth a little bit? That is my third concern. Let us know. Tweet me at Chad_Minton or tweet the show at Catfish Ice. Tell me what your biggest concerns are for the Predators going into the season. We're less than a month away from the season opener. Training camp is starting in just a few days. We finally got hockey back. It's felt like it's been a way longer offseason than normal. It's just, I miss hockey so much, so I'm happy it's almost here. But with that comes really high expectations and a lot of heartbreak, I'm sure. But we're kind of used to it by now, being Predators fans. But you know what? Wouldn't have it any other way, because Predators hockey is still awesome, and I can't wait to have them back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. It helps a ton. Follow us on Twitter at Catfish Ice. Watch the live streams. We have a lot of fun on there and talk a lot of good stuff. And also, DraftKings and Raycon earbuds are our sponsors. Promo code THPN for both of those to get exclusive offers, including 15% off your first Raycon order to get new earbuds, flashy new wireless earbuds. They're awesome. I can tell you that right now. So thanks, everyone, for listening. This is Chad Minton, your host. We'll see you next week on Catfish on Ice for a brand new episode 145. Take care, everybody.